This is Susan Wilbanks with blendedinsight.com. I am a holistic and integrative healing arts practitioner, an intuitive, and an energy healer. In this podcast, I share tips, tools, and suggestions that have helped me along my path in hopes of inspiring and helping you along yours. Let's get started with today's podcast topic.
Hello, bright soul. Thank you so much for joining me on another podcast. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And I know I haven't given you any additions to the Orange Cat Chronicles, but I did want to tell you that the little orange cat brought a snake into the house. That's right. He brought a huge snake into the house and dropped it right on the kitchen rug. It's just like, I didn't see it initially. My daughter found it and she was very brave. She picked up the entire rug, took it outside, and then he once again lost his inside-outside privileges. So I thought that once he got neutered, it would be better. And it is better. And that's why I opened the door again, because he's constantly begging to go outside. And he's a yowler. So you'll be upstairs, I'll be upstairs, or my daughter will be upstairs. And he's yowling. And he also trills. He's a triller. So he's doing the trill thing. He's yowling. And it's just starts to get agitating. So for that reason, because I don't want to have to constantly go downstairs and open the door and then open it again, indoor, outdoor thing, I opened the little doggy door and he brings us a gift. How sweet. No, thank you. So anyway, his indoor, outdoor privileges are once again lost, and we continue with the Orange Cat Chronicles. And it was pretty scary. It was pretty scary. So I wanted to talk about scaremongering in the collective. And I know it's a little bit of I don't want to say build on, but it's a little bit of a extension of last week, because I also want to give you we're going to talk about spiritual and practical things as always, but also specific scripts or tools to use when this comes up. And it's not just with politics, but it's within the state of the world. Over the last several years, there's a lot of talk in the spiritual world about, we're shifting consciousness, we're moving to a new dimension. I even had someone a few years ago tell me a specific day that the rapture is coming. Of course, that day came and went, and that wasn't true. And oh my gosh, you've got to prepare and you've got to hoard supplies. And, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. And I'm not saying that there's not some truth in it. There possibly could be. But anytime we are in fear, we are not in power. So I want to talk about how we can gracefully navigate this and move through this intense collective consciousness shift and become more grounded, more empowered, and more aligned with your highest self, regardless of what's going on externally. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, why do people do this? Why do they do it? A lot of times it's a tool to try to control your decisions. So if they try to scare you into submission or into the decision that they think is best for you, and it's not always from a malicious place. Sometimes they think if they scare you, they're doing it for your highest good. I know it can get intense, and this is why I want to share with you these tools that work. So the other thing that people do is they project. They spread the fear because they're consumed by their own anxiety, and even parents do it. I know I've done it before, where I say something to kind of scare my daughter to try to make her think. This is when she was younger, before her brain was fully developed, and it worked. She'll come back and tell me, oh, when you told me this, it scared me a little bit. So it's not always bad, and then we can talk about it now and say, well, I did that because I know this is how you think and blah, blah, blah. So again, it's not always malicious. So the other thing that people do is they just want attention. They love to talk about drama and negativity and fear-based strategy, because our brains are wired for survival. So if you get someone in fear, it revs them up. It gets their adrenaline going. And people that are not as conscious and not as peaceful, they love it. And these are the people that frustrate their life with chaos. They can't sit still. They got to constantly be on the go. They love to gossip. So, and I've been, I wasn't all the way like that, but there's times in my life where I was expressing those tendencies because I was not in a place that I am now. So I have compassion for it. And as we know, when you're living in a constant state of fear, you're disconnected from your spiritual path and you start to feel powerless. You start to feel anxious. And sometimes it can even lead to physical symptoms like fatigue or restlessness. It really diminishes your ability to connect with your inner wisdom and your divine guidance because your mind is fixated on this survival mode, which goes along with the levels of consciousness that we talked about last week. So we got to raise our awareness, identify that fear, and break free from it as soon as we recognize that it's happening. So pay attention to the conversations, pay attention to the social media, the news, anything that's making you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or out of alignment. And then just ask yourself, is this message rooted in love or fear? And am I being triggered by something personal, or is this a mass narrative? And this is where critical thinking comes in. And I've always been a proponent of critical thinking. And I know during the whole last couple years, now all of a sudden that's a bad thing to say that you're a critical thinker and that you do your own research. I've always said that. I said it way before COVID. I'm going to continue to say it because I think for myself. I think for myself. And I have a source that I am strongly connected to that feeds me information that may not make logical sense, but it makes spiritual sense. And it's never once steered me wrong, ever. So I trust it. And I trust it because I've developed the relationship. And how do you develop the relationship? Through conscious contact, through building that relationship through connection. And you connect through meditation, breath work, all the things I talk about. So sometimes we just need to detox from the media and detox from the fear provoking sources. So this is where I talked about limiting my exposure to news outlets. I don't follow that stuff. I limit my exposure to social media when I feel it starting to irritate me or rev me up or just exhaust me. And I also limit my exposure to individuals who thrive on spreading fear. I choose to consume content like what you're listening to right now that's uplifting, that's giving me tools and strategies and giving me action-based things that I can do right now to put me in a higher state. I love spiritually enriching content and mental content because spirituality drives everything, but I'm in a physical body in a practical world. So for me, spirituality is one part of my life, but it's not all of my life, although it weaves everything together. I'm into health and fitness. I'm into growth. I'm into psychology, learning how the mind works so I can work together with my mind, my body, my spirit, my soul, and blend everything together. So also setting strong energetic boundaries. Use the grounding and shielding techniques that I have here on my YouTube channel and that you know that works for you. You can imagine this a bubble of light. This is something really easy. It filters out negative energy. It allows love and positivity. And you can cater your shield to whatever feels good and right for you. And you can also call on your guides, call on God, higher power to fortify your aura and to keep you protected and insulated. And also, when you're confronted with fear or scaremongering, return to the core truths of your spiritual practice because fear thrives in disconnection. So when you take your time and you sit and you ground yourself in what you know to be true, this body is going to pass away. All of my family members have shown me the body dies. They've shown it to me. The body dies, life goes by quickly, and it goes by so fast. You're gone in a blink, in a snap. The truth is, I'm immortal. The truth is, the soul goes on. The body perishes, but the soul goes on. And I know I'm guided. I know I'm protected. And at the end of the day, it's God who's going to decide how I leave and the experiences that I have so I can trust and relax in that. So the other thing that's so incredibly helpful is practicing daily gratitude. And this is where I talk about affirmations. This is why I create guided meditations and use them for myself, reminding myself that I'm safe, guided, I'm part of a greater divine plan. Affirm for yourself, I trust that all is well, even if I can't see the full picture. And this puts you in a state of faith and relaxing surrender, trust. And then understand, hey, listen, got to have compassion because not everyone is ready to let go of the fear. So sometimes if you try to confront the fear monger and say, well, yeah, you're just fear mongering, you're scaremongering, it's going to lead to unnecessary conflict because that's what they want. They love conflict. And you're calling them out on a behavior that they're either unwilling or unable to see. So a lot of times they'll get defensive. So you got to approach it with compassion and understanding because it's really not worth your energy. I mean, they're looking for a fight. So you can steer the language in a way that's more solution oriented. So for me, it's like, okay, I need to establish boundaries if I know this person doesn't want solutions and anchor myself in the present moment. So one of the ways to do this is just say, well, peace is always found in what is, not if the what ifs. So I can play the what if this, what if that. I can play that game all day. And if I'm doing it to scare myself, I'm not doing it from a positive place. So you can also say, okay, well, like what is happening right now? Right now, I am recording this podcast. I'm connecting with this beautiful community. I am using my voice to be a part of the solution. I'm helping. So I don't need to worry about what if unless I'm going to spin it in a positive way that makes me feel better. Because as we know, how we feel determines the vibration we're emitting, which then creates our reality. So again, meditation, energy healing, all those things, breath work is tremendous. And listen, I'm not saying bury your head in the sand. And after I'm done with this part, I'm going to talk about specific conversations or strategies or scripts just to give you some ideas because I know sometimes we struggle with that. But we want to stay informed, but detached. So I'm very well informed. I don't bury my head in the sand. I know a lot of times in the spiritual community, it's all love and light, man. And they're just disconnected from everything, not having actual jobs or participating in society, barely hanging on. This is a common thing in the spiritual community and just grouping together and not part of the world. And that is not me. And I think that's not helpful. So for me, I'm well informed, but I don't become emotionally entangled in polarizing debates. I'm always looking from a higher view. I listen because you really can't have objective decisions if you only pigeonhole yourself into one side and you don't listen. It's important to listen because I want to hear what someone is saying and I want to sort through all the information. That's part of critically thinking. So I also understand that people have different levels of truth based on their own consciousness, their life experiences, and what they can handle. Some people really can't handle to look at some harder truths. And so then I just have compassion, like, well, you know what? It's not my job to force growth. I can ask questions, but if a person is not willing to go there or not wanting to go there, that's their path. And I can gracefully bow out. I can have compassion. I can send love and know that I did my part. And then I refocus on my own path because that's the only thing I can control. And it's really the only thing I can influence. So let's go into some specific examples of what you can do when someone is trying to scaremonger you. As I know, sometimes we just need something really tangible to grab onto for a response. So let's just say someone is pushing a fear-based news or some kind of narrative and they're really pushing it. So here's something I would say, and I'm just giving you an example, modify or get some insight or some ideas based on what I would say. So let's just say someone is really pushing it hard because we get this sometimes. And I think we've all experienced it the last few years. I just say, yep, I understand you're concerned. I am acknowledging it. So I'm not shutting it down. And then my thing is like, so what can we do about it? What's something proactive we can do about it? A lot of times this short circuits for them because they're just wanting to engage in the scaremongering. But when you're gently shifting the focus from fear to constructive action, it allows you to maintain peace. And it encourages them to think about a more solution-oriented discussion. And I'm going to be honest, most of the time that just kills the conversation and we shift because they don't have a solution. They just want to stir the pot and circulate. So, as we know, fear-based narratives lower your vibration. So when you keep the conversation as positive as you can, it helps protect your energy field. And it also helps to just ground yourself, take a few deep breaths and remain calm when addressing it. Like, yeah, no, I get it. So what can we do? A lot of times the response is nothing. Okay, so let's move on. So what about when a friend is expressing political fear? Because this is coming up a lot, or any fear. Also with health. Oh, they're going to unleash another, I'm not going to go into because I don't want to get censored, but there's a lot of that too. I just listen. Yeah, no, I hear it. I respect your point of view. Yeah. And I'm actually acting the way that I would act if someone is sharing this with me because this is real life stuff. Yeah, I feel it's important to remember, everyone sees the world differently. I get it. It's based on their own experiences. I just try to stay grounded in what's meant to be. And so I'm basically listening. I'm not shutting them down. I'm acknowledging their concern, but I'm not engaging in the fear. I'm basically listening like, no, I get it. I feel like the only thing we can do is just stay grounded and trust that things will unfold. And again, I go back to, so what can we do? Because I'll be honest, in all of this, when the world is shifting and changing, it's getting nutty. As I shared with you before, I donate money to spiritual causes that are supporting me. I donate money to causes that are helping the problem and the outcome that I wish to see. And I do meditation twin hearts, which floods the earth with beautiful golden healing light. I envision the world that I want to see. I really don't want to energize the negativity. So I'm doing the things that I can do and then releasing the rest, because that keeps me in power and it keeps me in a state of not feeling like I'm completely helpless and then joining other people while they're feeling helpless. So that's another thing. So what about when someone is trying to instill fear about your personal decisions? Because, as I shared, I had this really heavy, a couple of years ago. Well, I just listen and go, yeah, I hear your concern. I've given it a lot of thought, but my intuition and my guidance that I'm receiving is this. So that's what feels right for me. And that's what I'm choosing to do. And then the person would, circulate and say the same thing they're going to say. And I would just say, okay, I hear you, but that's not God's direction for my life. And I trust my intuition and I'm trusting my spiritual path. And this is what feels right for me. So this is what I'm going to do. And I just keep reiterating it. And this response empowers you to stand firm, but it doesn't dismiss their concern. It acknowledges their concern and says, it's basically saying, thank you for sharing, but this is what I'm going to do. And you calmly assert your boundaries this way. So what if someone is going on a massive political rant and trying to scaremonger with that? Because that's another thing we deal with. I listen and say, God, I know it can be so overwhelming and it's hard to know what's right, but I just find focusing on what I can control, which is my own actions and energy, it helps me to stay grounded, because we have a role in creating positive change. And I just want to focus on what I can do in my immediate environment. And if you have any type of roles or like advocacy things or positive for change you want to see, outlets that you can participate in, I find that really helps, because then you're in action. And, politics, it triggers people, and it really triggers the root chakra, the fear of safety and security for most people. So staying grounded, acknowledging, hey, I get that there's political concerns. It's hard to know what's right because we're not in the room with these people. We don't know these people personally. We only know what's being presented. Now, for people that have spiritual gifts, we can look at their energy centers, all politics, everyone. But even that, I've learned over the years, if a lot of people have ideas about certain groups of people or one person, a lot of times they are having all these thought forms that collect on the person, and the average person picks up on those thought forms instead of real truth. So it goes back to your spiritual practice, where you are, and doing the very best you can in any given moment, and giving people the grace and the permission to do the same. So what about when a group conversation turns into a rant? And I'm a ranter, so I'm not judging anybody. I can go on epic rants. I am so flawed and so human, and I get in my flesh and agitated and frustrated just like anybody else. So I'm just sharing how I keep myself grounded during these times, and hopefully some of it will resonate or help you. So when I listen to people, I usually don't participate. Now, if someone calls on me directly, I'll just say, I just try to shift my focus to the possibilities, because it'll change the way I approach these situations. And that's my feedback. And I just say, I don't want to go into it because it makes me feel, I don't know, disempowered. And I don't like feeling that way. And I don't really know the truth because I don't know these people personally. I can look at it objectively. I can critically think. I can do my research and just make the very best decision. So when I give this response, it's shifting the energy of the entire conversation from fear to empowerment, but it doesn't diminish the concerns. And you'll notice the theme here. That's all I'm doing in every single one of these situations. So what about when someone's trying to scare you into agreeing with them? I listen. this would be a typical response. Yeah, I can feel how strongly and I see how strongly you feel about it, but I can't make decisions from a place of fear. I've got to be in a place of peace. And this is feeling kind of sticky. I want to discuss this without the stickiness, if that's because it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work otherwise. So I just say, I need some time and some space to think about it. I want to do some breath work. I feel a little bit sticky energy. I don't like to make decisions from that space. So thank you for sharing and let me think about it. And that's it. I'm not in a space to make that decision right now. So this response places the boundary, it invites a calm, rational conversation, and it creates some space for you so that you can make your decision from a place of peace rather than fear. And it also reaffirms your commitment to staying grounded. You're reaffirming who you are. I make conscious choices. Because again, fear, if it clouds people's judgment, and we're people that are wanting to trust our inner guidance. We don't want to make decisions when we're feeling pressured or afraid. So I know it can feel overwhelming, but understand that people are usually trying to do the very best they can. The world is nuts, and it's been really tough the last few years for most people. Most people are experiencing enormous grief. Most of us have had tremendous loss. And it's not just physical loss where people have left the planet. It's loss of the way that you used to show up in the world, loss of the way that the world used to be. Many people had to shift the way that they work, the way they operate. A lot of people are being hit financially, all of that. So everything is changing, and we like comfort. We like comfort. We want to be able to know that we're secure, we're safe, we can predict the future. And when there's a lot of uncertainty, even when we really can't, but feeling like we can, like we have a certain trajectory that we're working toward. And when people don't have that, it gets them in this constant hamster wheel, and it speeds them up, it revs them up, and they're just looking for other people to make them feel safe and comfortable. So you as a light worker, I know this has happened for me. There's a lot of people grabbing on and clinging. Some people send me so many emails like they're looking for answers, connection. And hey, I'm only one person, so I can't possibly give my energy that much to anybody because I have a family, and this is something that I work with people privately, one-on-one. This is part of my purpose. I do this from my own time. I spend my own time, money, resources to get royalty-free music, to get royalty-free videos, I spend my own time, resources, and money to show up here to try to be a part of the solution, to try to help people in ways that I wish someone helped me. It's really a giving back. It's a service. So we can all do what we can, but then we have to also know when we can't do this too much, can't do it. So it's a balance of giving and taking care of yourself, maintaining your boundaries, but having compassion. And I know that can get overwhelming because while I'm doing my best to help other people navigate change, I myself have went through an enormous amount of change. And we've talked about before how people have different capacities. So for you, you may get full once you have your quart bucket full. And someone else may be completely full and overflowing and having a meltdown when they only have like half a cup of a bucket that's full. So you can take on more because of the soul development you've done, the work that you've done, and someone else can't. They just can't cope. So it's also just knowing, okay, this person's path is different than mine. I don't want to compare. I'm not trying to compare. I just want to do the very best and do what I'm told to do on a day-to-day basis. So I so sincerely hope something in this has helped. We just got to set our boundaries, stay grounded, focus on solutions, maintain your inner peace, and know that people are really struggling. And you could be the one struggling. I get it. It has been tough. We know the only constant in life is change, and uncertainty triggers anxiety or feelings of losing control for people. But the spiritual path that you and I are on, it teaches us uncertainty can also be a doorway to growth. It can be a doorway to new beginnings, unexpected blessings. So we just got to embrace this unknown, move from fear to flow, and trust that all is well. That is all I wanted to offer. Let's go into a healing. So you can uncross your arms and legs, and I will turn the energy on. Okay, and so it is. You can come back into your body. And friends, we're going to get through this. Let's just stay in the light, compassion where people are. Thank God for these practices we've learned. I am so grateful for my spiritual connection, for the practices I've learned. And I'm so grateful that I've learned tools to help people that I really needed these tools before I had them. And so I'm so grateful to be able to share them. And that's my whole goal. But we're going to get through it, as I said. And as always, I appreciate you so much. And I wish you a beautiful week. Take care. Bye bye.